Hello and welcome. My name is Chris Henley, and today we're going to talk about some of the new date-time data types included in SQL Server 2008. Now, there are four key new date-time types that we want to talk about. First, there is now a date-only data type, a time-only type, a date-time offset, which is actually a time zone-aware data time type, and date time 2, which is actually a new date time type that has a larger fractional seconds and year range than our existing date time type includes. Now, to see how the new date time data types actually work, let's go ahead and consider a scenario of an international art brokerage with offices in London, New York, and Seattle. As this company acquires new art to sell, it's going to place its acquired art into something called its acquired asset table. Let's go ahead and generate that table. Since the company might be selling art created before 1753, it uses a variable character varchar for the publish date. Now notice, for example, that as we generate the table, the asset ID 5 was published in 1725. Let me scooch over to its date. There it is. Although when we look at asset number 4, it has a publish date of unknown, which may not be desirable since we would want to know the age of the artwork. Now, how come this works? Why doesn't it generate an error for us? Well, because it's a varchar field. The stored procedure that inserts the data into the table doesn't return an error. This is not a date or a null value. What the brokerage would like to be able to do is use a date column that stores only dates or nulls and strictly enforces the values stored in each row. Now, the art brokerage also produces and sells videos showcasing some of the art that they have for sale, and they need to store the play length for each video in the database. At present, they store the video lengths using a value based on seconds. Now, when displaying the data to the customers, however, the brokerage needs to remember to convert the value from seconds to minutes, because none of us want to be able to see how many seconds a video segment might be. It'd be a lot better if the brokerage could just store this data as an actual time value and not have to worry about performing all the conversions. Applications with user base spread across time zones also need to be careful to translate the dates to a single time zone, such as Greenwich Mean Time, when we're updating the database. And there's always a chance of an application misinterpreting a date value. It would be more natural and provide greater flexibility for the brokerage if they could enhance the acquired date time column with specific time zone information. Now, the available date column stored as a date time data type also has a problem here. This column is intended just to contain a date, much like a birth date. However, since this is a date time field, a rogue application like the one used in Seattle may inadvertently include the time portion, and this could lead to issues when we attempt to query the actual data itself. To address the problems, let's see what happens when the brokerage migrates this data to SQL Server 2008, where it can now take advantage of several new data types. Here's the new schema for the acquired assets table, and you'll notice that several of the new data types are used here. Now, the first new data type shown here is the date time offset data type. This data type allows us to store time zone offsets from Greenwich Mean Time, and it has an extended range of dates from January 1st of 0001 to December 31st of 9999, which gives us a greater precision in the time portion. We also get up to 100 nanoseconds or 7 digits for fractional seconds on time. Now, the new date time 2 type has the same range, but it excludes the time zone offset. A new date data type has also been added to the SQL Server, and this allows us to store dates from January 1st, 0001 to December 31st, 9999 without the time portion. Now, this can resolve many annoyances where the time portion is inappropriate, such as a birth date, when clients in a different time zone from the server may offset the stored value. So a date time value for 1965-95-000 on New York server may inadvertently be changed to 1965-94 2100 hours on a web server located in Los Angeles if they were formatting the date for a browser client. Likewise, the new time data type stores just the time portion. This could be the time portion of a date, or it could be a time interval. Let's go in and generate the acquired asset table now in SQL Server 2008. Now here's our acquired asset table after these new data types have been implemented. Now several of the database issues that the firm struggled with before have now specifically been addressed. Remember line item 4 with our acquired date and time and our published date and time? Remember published date used to say unknown, now it's simply left empty. The acquired date time column has been implemented with the date time offset data type. Now this enables the company to more accurately track when assets were acquired in different time zones. The published date has been implemented using the new date data type. The old dates can now be stored natively without having to store the data as characters. Blank rows in the column must now be kept as null values, preventing unwanted data from being inserted into the column. Finally, the play length is now stored as the new time data type. So as we scooch over to the right-hand side, you can see that I no longer worry about conversions between seconds and minutes. The play length is just simply displayed in the time of hours, minutes, seconds, and in this case, fractions of seconds, which we probably would configure not to be displayed. Now, to illustrate the benefits of using these new data types, let's see what happens when we query both the old and the new table for assets added on August 29th. So when we perform these queries, we're going to do it from the perspective of our London office. When we run this query on the old table, all 10 of the items are returned checked. Now, this is because the date was all entered in the table from the perspective of the local time zone of the office that acquired them. So this means that items that were acquired on August 29th in Seattle are treated exactly the same as items acquired in London. Now with the new table, not all the items are checked when we perform the query. And this is because the new localized date time offset field, which now stores all data as offsets from Greenwich Mean Time. When London acquires data, the items acquired in Seattle office don't show up because from the perspective of the London office, they weren't actually acquired on August 29th. Now implementing the date time offset data type can yield much more accurate results in certain situations where it's necessary to be aware of time zone differences. In this example, let's go ahead and query both tables, and let's query both tables for assets available on October 1st. Now, in the old table, only assets 1 and 6 are actually going to show up checked. Asset 7, the rare Italian paintings, isn't checked because it doesn't give an exact match with the query string because it also contains the time information as part of the date record. Now, unless you know how to handle this in your query, you'll end up with an unexpected query result like the one that you see here. Now, in the new table, the available date is simply stored as a date data type, and it eliminates this query issue completely since no time information is kept in the table, only the date. So the query returns the correct results for October 1st, which is 1, 6, and 7, which would be appropriately chosen. Finally, this example will actually illustrate the pain with querying the play length column. Now in the old table, when we attempted to select videos that are less than an hour in length, we have to remember to multiply minutes by seconds to arrive at the correct number for our query. With the new date time, or just straight time data type, all we need to do is issue a straightforward query for videos less than an hour in length. And you can see in terms of our reporting back, we're now getting proper reporting in both old and new tables. However, the intuitive nature of play length in a straight time field is far superior to what we get in the traditional play length in the old table, where we had to do the conversion with multiplications by seconds to minutes. This is much better and much more intuitive. In SQL Server 2008, the new date-time data types provide us a much more flexible and much more intuitive method for handling dates, times, and time zone offsets than we've seen in SQL before. Thanks for joining me. Come and join us again, and we'll talk more on SQL Server 2008.